important institution to all of us. Everybody will go on retirement one day, and if you are in an active service today and you are not concerned about what is happening in SNIT, what it tells you is that when you go on retirement, you are going to suffer. But for me, what it tells me is that there are institutional weaknesses, and there are people in public service who are not doing what they are expected to do. And again, it also seems to me that there are some people in society who may want to cover certain rot in society. Why do I say that? I think this business of Dr. Caleb Afagolo's qualification, in my view, is all about covering the real issues. I think that the issue is there about his qualifications, but the substantive issue had to do with the contract and the consultancy assignment that was awarded. That is a substantive matter. Yes, he may have come in with whatever qualification. The HR unit will have to be dealt with. But I think that the amount of money we have sunk into that particular contract or that particular procurement and the processes that went with it should be a concern and a worry to all of us. So I think that it is unfolding. I will invite the media to delve more into it. And whichever way you look at it, it is not good and we should not encourage it.
Prof, what does this say about public accountability? Because this is really resources for the masses.
Thank you for having me, and let me say a good afternoon to your cherished viewers. Every human being is selfish intrinsically, and unless human beings are prevented, they would almost always act in self-interest. And this statement tells us that if we have organizations and we do not build institutions and systems that will protect and prevent individuals from wanting to promote their intrinsic selfishness, they will go ahead and do that. What this case tells us is something that I'm not surprised at all. I'm not surprised because this is not the first. It will never be the last. In fact, what we have seen, we will see massive cases that will be even bigger than this. And the reason is that...
That's really worrying.
Well, you should not be surprised. That's what I said, that if all human beings are intrinsically selfish, and if we do not prevent people from doing it, they will do it. And why this is happening is that in some cases this happened elsewhere, in other organizations, in the same organization in some time past, and people have gone scot-free. And you will be a stupid person, excuse my language, if you found everybody doing something and getting away with it, and then you will not follow. It's a human nature. It's not because you are a Christian, it's not because you are a pastor, it's not because you are a Muslim. It doesn't matter what religion you belong to. But when there is a place of comfort and everybody gets in there and gets out of that comfort and celebrates, there's a driving temptation for people who are watching to do same. And in Ghana, we have given opportunities for people to take state resources and jubilate with it. Why don't we see? You expand that to look at what happens in our jurisdiction. You go to village courts, district courts. People steal cassava, and they get jailed for months, years. People, trotro drivers or taxi drivers get offended on the street for minor offenses, and we see what happens to them. But tell me, apart from the Rawlings regime, when they were leaving, I think a few people were taken to jail, and in Kufuor's era, 1 or 2, tell me if any big fish has ever been dealt with. Why wouldn't people do more? People will do more, and we will see more. The most disheartening part of it is that on a daily basis, so many people go to bed hungry, so many people die needlessly in hospitals, so many children can't go to school, women are giving birth on the floors of hospitals because there's no bed, and we don't have electricity. Now we do somehow. But look at our roads, look at everything, and there's no one who is holding anyone, to account. And if we won't do it, this is what will happen. We will get more of these happening actually.
Mr. Walters, what are your preliminary views about SNIT? These are very worrying revelations, and Prof tells us there's more that we are yet to see. That's really scary.
I share his sentiments, and before I even go on, congratulations, Prof.
Thank you, sir.
And hello to our viewers. I'm looking at it from their professional point of view. And I say that it is a total flaw because SNIT has not risen to recognize procurement as a professional discipline in itself and to ensure that those who manage these huge processes, complex processes, are professionals who would appreciate what they have to do and running through a very plausible process. I have heard people say that, oh, they went through tendering process. And then the question will be, just running through tendering process, does it make it right? It doesn't.
But there's a public procurement act that prescribes what should be done in cases like that.
Exactly. But then,
and if tendering, public tendering is part of it, isn't that legitimate to say that we went through tendering process?
You went through tendering process, but then the law again stipulates that if you're buying services, the methodology you had to use, and it's not the same as buying goods. And if you make a mistake right from the beginning, then what you're going to get is a disaster. And then secondly, you realize that they went into this business without actually knowing exactly the outcome, what they wanted. Because if they knew it, they would not be expanding the scope day in, day out. So it's a very bad process, which shouldn't have even started at the first place. The specification that was put across was bad. The professional who led the whole thing failed the country, and it's a really bad specter for everybody to look at. And it's about time that the country rises to look at procurement as a professional discipline. And I believe that would even go a long way to help sanitize some of these things. Now, the one who led it, assuming there are sanctions to be meted against him, how is it going to be done? Does it belong to any professional, recognized professional institution that have the mandate to run such things? How is it going to be penalized? Is his license to be withdrawn? What? Or is it like Prof just said, nothing happened to the previous player, so I can also do it and go scot-free?
Doc, it looks like public procurement generally is becoming a huge challenge. Why is it so? Why is it that procurement is becoming a challenge for us? Because it looks like everything that we hear is either through one procurement or another. Recently we heard about the procurement of dustbins and things like that. So public procurement generally. But why has that area become problematic? Is it that we don't have enough professionals, or professionals are not doing their work well?
Put two things together, but public procurement, think about this country, apart from government paying salaries, every other thing government uses public funds for is procurement. So if we think we are overspending as a country, then definitely the radar will have to be turned to procurement. So that is why we see that. But then again, if you also tend to look at the players who are in procurement, practicing procurement, we need to make sure that we have really certified professional procurement people to take over the responsibility. I have seen organizations where they say a planner should be responsible for procurement, an accountant can handle procurement, an engineer will be able to handle procurement. But I keep saying that procurement is procurement and engineering is engineering.
But they are technical procurement. Sometimes you need a technical person. For instance, SNIT was procuring IT, so they needed someone with IT expertise.
But you don't need an IT person to run a procurement process. What you need an IT person to do is to develop the requirements. And that is what we need. Before you get to the market, there is a difference between the technical definition and then the commercial arrangement. And this is where we get it mixed up at times. That we hear they say, oh, this is an engineering project, so it should be handled by engineers. And it's never the case. Procurement is procurement, engineering is engineering, IT is there. IT raises the specification. If we're going to do the evaluation in terms of the technical capabilities and everything,
then you need IT
we need IT people to participate to help us look at who qualifies. But in terms of getting to the market, soliciting from the market, it is not an IT's capability. They don't have the skill. And that is where we're having all these challenges.
Doug, it looks like there's a lot of emphasis on dealing with sole sourcing and all that, but we hear public tendering also resulting in procurements that now we know in the case of SNAIT was not done with the prudent use of resources. So looking at sole sourcing, is sole sourcing a challenge for us in this country, or procurement generally, because this was open tender but still ended up.
So ideally, if you look at the legislative framework, policy framework, and institutional framework, we do not have a problem. The problem is about implementation. Sole sourcing originally was not intended to be as it is being implemented now. Originally, the understanding is that you may be under pressure, there may be emergencies. You may have an individual or an organization that has an expertise in a particular area only, for which reason you can easily sole source it from there. But unfortunately, that particular well thought out intent has been grossly abused. What we need to do is to look at our institutional framework again, work on enforcement, work on prevention. Well, it looks as if we are not preventing it enough. We have a public procurement authority, and this particular authority is expected to ensure that they manage all public procurement, quality assure the process, and then do continuous auditing. How often do they do that? I'm also aware that almost all institutions that undertake procurement using public resources are expected to prepare an annual procurement plan. These annual procurement plans are expected to be updated on a quarterly basis. Public Procurement Authority is expected to undertake continuous monitoring of the extent to which they even implement these procurement plans. Do we do that? Aside from that, are the politicians prepared to allow the technical officers to apply the laws as they ought to be? If we allow all these things to happen, then we'll be okay. But otherwise, we can have all the laws, we can have all the policies, we can have all the institutional structures. If we don't take away the political will, in fact, with this SNAIT thing, if you go in and go in and go in, by the time you finish with the investigations, you will see a political color there. Why do we do that to ourselves as a nation? If indeed our constitution requires of us as public officers to protect public purse, and the people who have been elected and appointed to protect public purse finds a way of going around it to milk the same institution or the same public purse, then we are in trouble.
Now, what about the technocrats within these institutions put there by the Ghanaian people to protect and support the politicians to make sure that the funds are used for the rights and applied properly? What about those technocrats? Aren't we overemphasizing the role of the politician?
We are overemphasizing on it, but let me tell you, our social protection system does not also support technical professionals to be able to be that strict in ensuring that politicians and those in authority abide by the rules. Because today, if you are a professional procurement officer and you want to insist on it that your boss should not violate the rules, the next day something will happen to you. Either they will stall your promotion, or if they have to promote you or they have to transfer you or post you, they'll post you to another place. Nobody cares. Our social protection does not protect people who protect the public purse. And if we really want to get professionals to put their professionals, the acumen on the line, then we should be able to protect them. The professional bodies are there, just as Doc said. It is true. I'm a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants, and I'm very careful that I don't flout any of the laws, else the Ethics Committee will deal with me. But the Ethics Committee can only deal with me if the issue comes to their attention. And today, if I insist on my organization preventing the leadership of my organization from violating the professional rules or the procurement rules, and then I am posted or I am transferred, nobody cares. And that if we are able to protect the public officers or to protect the professionals in that regard, you can be sure that they can stand up against the politicians. But until we are able to do that, we should forget about it.
Well, Prof, should we start looking at reviewing the way we do? We have a Procurement Act. It was amended in 2016.
Yes.
Fine law. But the practice, so what should we do with the practice?
Ministry.
What should we do with the practice? We have a procurement ministry. We have a minister in charge of procurement. What should we do with the practice of procurement?
My dear,
because everything is there.
It's the human beings.
Also,
You can build laws that just got landed, like Moses brought the law from the mountain. we will do what we will do. It is the human beings. Ghana as a country hasn't done well at all over the years. A number of international organizations that actually assess countries on governance, on public management, on corruption and integrity, transparency, has shown that over a couple of years now, Ghana has continuously deteriorated. And I tell you what, it doesn't matter what law we bring. You see, we talk as if the civil servant or the public servant is not a human being. He is a human being, or she is a human being. The public servant rises up to become chief director, takes home a salary that is perhaps a third of what a deputy minister takes. A deputy minister's son goes to a good school. The civil public servant has his child in the Saito school. And a contract comes, and the politician fidgets with it and makes money away. You think the civil servant is a stupid person? No, they are not. So, the environment in which we live, the environment in which they work, if you go and bring laws made of iron, it will be the same way that we have been, unless we decide that we will change. And what change can we decide to do? That somebody will decide that if anybody puts their hand in the kitty when we have not permitted it, there will be a bite. In HR, we have a law, we have some training we call the hot stove rule. And the rule is that if you get close to a hot stove and you touch it and it's hot, it will burn you. And it doesn't matter whether you are red, blue, or red or green. If you touch the hot stove in the same intensity, it will burn you with the same intensity. Therefore, when you get closer to the hot stove, it warms you. You can feel the heat. If you ignore it and you touch it, it will burn you. Unfortunately, our systems haven't been brought up to that extent where individuals can look individuals in their face and tell them, oh, you are my sister. However, on this occasion, you are wrong, and therefore the law will deal with you. We protect people because of politics. We protect people because of ethnicity. We protect people because of religion, because of where we live, because we went to the same school, and all of that. That's one of the major problems that developing countries have. Which it's not as if the white man is not corrupt. Sometimes they are better than us in terms of corruption. But you see, why you would have CCTV showing who is overdriving or overspeeding, and you get a ticket, is that they know that if they don't do that, somebody will get away. There is a system that catches you if you misbehave. It will deal with you if you misbehave. I remember a story. I was driving with a professor that was my boss at the time. I was working with him in Belgium. And when we drive in Ghana, he likes to drive at such a top speed. And we get away with it. In Belgium, he was driving in the town. And he got some point, he applied the brakes and I almost jumped out of the car. I asked Prof, why? He says, yeah, there's a camera there. I will pay 50 euro. Why? Because something will catch him. Something will punish him. And that something would restrain people. In our case, we and Dr. Sai and a few others have been involved in the public financial management system. Design a beautiful system which would ensure that we are unable, or we ensure that we prevent people from stealing. But unfortunately, it's not the case. And the reason is that people are found out, they get away because somebody will talk for them, and we all do it. And I always say, we all pretend. I'm sorry. We all pretend. Because if it was my brother involved, I'll go talk to somebody and say, please, this is my brother. If it's my church person, I'll go say, this is my church person. Until we can stop that, let us all stop pretending. I have said that let us all invite ourselves to join, so that everybody would grab what they can grab. So that those who are stronger would kill the smaller ones and grab what they can grab. Otherwise, the current system doesn't make sense. We cannot be a people.
What you just described, it sounds like a chaotic situation. Let's all grab what we can grab.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. You are pretending that we don't have a chaotic system. But what we have is actually more than chaos. It's more than chaos because, you know, if you go visit any public sector institution and let them give you their recommended prices for items, and look at them, and go to the open market where people make exorbitant prices and ask the prices and compare. But these are approved. If you have to procure something as a head of department or something, they will send you that list prepared by the procurement office to say that a pen is this much. Go to the market and ask for the price of a pen. And we all know it. Go to parliament, they all know it. Go to the presidency, everywhere, we all know it. So it's not something that we all pretend, and when we come and say, oh, but and then somebody's problem has come today, 75 million, 72 million, I'm sorry, I added 3 million. And then but the truth is that we all know it. And many of us do it. I've got my students ask me, I teach ethics, they ask me, say, are you corrupt? I said, don't ask me that question. There is no individual who would have something free, and I got caught on traffic one day, right? I jumped light, and I got caught. I won't tell you what I did. But that would exemplify what we would do when our interest is at stake. And therefore, where people do not corrupt, do not destroy the system, do not jump procurement processes, they won't do it, because if they do it, they will get caught. I have a study, I was going to bring it, but I forgot. I asked level 100, 200 people what they would do if they were given a gift by a contractor they know was a contractor, had put in a bid for a project, and they were in charge of awarding that project, what they would do. You will see 57%, 58% of the students right from the way say, oh, this money I'll take it, even when they know that this is not a gift.
They didn't ask for it.
No, that's the question. So the others say, well, but everybody else is doing it, why not? And all of that. And when you begin introducing some complexities, for example, if you are caught and you know that you can get jailed, will you do it? The percentage reduces. If you are found out, if your post will be posted somewhere and they will go to Sawam, and then the percentage reduces. It goes down up to about 13% who say, irrespective of what happens.
So the key is a disincentive.
We need to create a disincentive to make sure people don't. That is just it.
We have a procurement authority, and we have these huge issues in procurement. What's your assessment of the authority? They should be doing all this. They should be dealing with the procurement issues for us. They are funded by the states.
Yes.
They are not a division. They are an authority.
Great. But then the authority, thank you very much. But then we first also have to look at what is the authority there for. For me, some of the things that authority is doing, I thought was even far more than we require all of them. But before moving into it, I just want to look at something. Now, as we say here, you have a tablet. If we want to buy tablets, and then you go to put a specification, which everybody knows is Samsung Tab 10, okay? Everything you've put in there is Samsung Tab 10.1. Any other company that would contest for this tender, do you think it's that company is just being fair and sincere to himself? No. Unless you are the distributor of Samsung, there is absolutely no point tendering for a specification made, skewed for Samsung. Straight away, you see it and you think this is tendering, open tendering. It's not. It's another sole source in disguise. So we need to understand how these things work out, and that would help us. Now, you spoke about, Dr. Sai spoke on sole source. One of the things that Public Procurement Authority has missed out over the years, that I remember speaking about it in 2015 and 2016, is Section 42 of Act 663. It says that if it's a sole source requirement, before you go for approval, you should have demonstrated to the Public Procurement Authority that, look, this is a sole source requirement. We have published it in the daily newspapers, and we did not have any backlash from any competing organization to say that, look, we have them. So as a result, it cannot be a sole source requirement. That is what the law says. This is always flouted on throughout the country by every public organization, and the Public Procurement Authority looked on. The Public Procurement, the Access 63 is their baby, is their Bhagavad Gita, and that is what they should use to help us. Through 2015, 2016,
they have a
nothing
new
happened.
amendment for 2016, 714, I think.
Yes,
914.
914.
But even the 914 left this thing because it is necessary that before you even start talking about a sole source, you need to demonstrate that, look, there is no competition anywhere. And the only way you can do it is to get into the newspapers and publicize it to say, this is a sole source requirement. So we want to see if there is any contesting ideas, suppliers. If you have anyone coming like that, it breaks the sole requirement, and then you need to go for competition. But the PPA has overlooked this and had approved all these soles that had gone
in your
to
view,
the
is the
others.
PPA doing their work?
This year or last year or 2 years ago?
all time.
At all times.
You know, because our regime keeps changing, and then you have new players coming on board. I am yet to...
Governance is continuous.
Yes, but then I'm yet to assess the players this time. And I believe, I have a lot of respect for the chief exec and then the chairman of the board. I have respect for them, and I expect that some of these things, they would be looking at them and be correcting them, because else then there is absolutely no point having this provision in the act. It is a total abuse of what they have. And I will not tell you what I almost did 2015 and 2016 on this particular thing. But, you know, in Ghana, huh?
Yeah. Doctor, yes, that's raised an HR issue.
Definitely.
This year we have a new team in place. Last year we had a different team. The people that are appointed to state-owned enterprises, are they really the issues? Because they keep changing. Depending on who is in power, the chiefs change.
Yes. Under normal circumstances, that should
and
not
the
be the
boards
case.
change.
Under normal circumstances, that should not be the case. If we see technical officers operating and working in a very technical, professional manner. But leadership, government, and politicians wants to be assured that you believe in the agenda that they've brought. You will be that professional and neutral, that you're going to give them the professional, technical advice that they need. Without holding brief for government, I think some professionals and technical officers would also have themselves to blame. Because at times, some people get to the top through politics. They get politicians to support them, to occupy a position they knew they would not otherwise would have gotten that position if we were going through proper processes. So once you get the politician to get you there, then the politician will use you to achieve his or her aim. Again, you don't also have to blame the politicians. Some of the politicians come into office, they do not understand the nitty-gritties of some of these things. It is these technical officers who show them the way. So what we need to do is we need to enforce our rules. We should be that strict. And I'm very happy about what the NPP put in its manifesto. And if they are able to go by it and they operationalize it, I'm very positive that we'll see some changes.
What specifically? The
specific ones are the ones that borders on making sure that if an institution or if a body is expected to appoint, let me read specifically. Specifically, they said they are going to enhance accountability in governance by promoting effective separation of powers between the judiciary and the executive. And then the one thing that they said they're going to do is to amend relevant sections of the Criminal Offences Act, particularly sections 3151 and 293 to 253, to make corruption a felony rather than a misdemeanor. That tightens it.
Do you think the appointment of minister in charge of procurement and special prosecutor, which is yet to happen, are areas that we should focus on? Would it help?
I think so. By way of speedy dealing with procurement issues, corruption. But that is after the harm has been caused. I think we should come up with preventive measures rather than coming in after the harm has been caused. And the preventive measures will be making sure that we ensure that all state institutions comply with the procurement rules in total. And that is the work of the procurement authority. You see, so I think getting procurement professionals there would be important. Let us get a professional procurement institution, like the Institute of Chartered Accountants, to also start sanctioning some of its members if they get the members found culpable in one procurement fraud or the other. Once there is that collaboration between procurement professional body, the procurement professionals, and the public institutions or the politicians will be able to make a headway.
Doc, the HR issues, a lot of people are appointed. Do we have some square pegs in square holes and some square pegs in round holes?
Let me not paint everyone with a brush that might. There are people who are extremely competent in their capacities, in their disciplines, and their backgrounds. Often what makes it difficult is the political milieu in which they are put to operate. So like my brother said, if I got appointed right now to be CEO of something and I wasn't expecting to be CEO of something, and the person that appointed me said, yeah, this boy is my boy, please sort him out. Who dare you say you won't sort out? You will sort out. And sorting out will mean that you would have to do things that when we appoint these people, oftentimes it's either because they have done some things for the party or the person appointing, and therefore we reward them. That's one thing. Even the boards, and I have asked the question consistently, so where was the board of SNIT? To what extent were they involved in this process? If they were not involved, who sanctioned this? If the person that sanctioned it didn't have the authority to sanction, who would sanction him? And the person who has the authority to sanction the person who was supposed to sanction, and if he refuses to sanction, what happens? So in terms
there are a lot of questions to
a lot of questions to answer. There's a quote from Transparency International, which talks about the eventual person who should suffer. And they talk about Ghana. It says, in countries like Ghana, which is the second worst decliner in the 2016 Corruption Perception Index in the region, that's in Africa, the dissatisfaction of citizens with the government's corruption record was reflected in their voting at the polls. So this is the conclusion of Transparency International, that the political class that got the power to discipline and to manage people, appoint people, ensure they are disciplined, didn't manage it well. And the citizens punished the politician, making sure they got out of power. I just hope that Ghanaians will be the final decision makers who would say that because I have not been able to get X, Y, and Z, I will call on whoever is the authority bearer to provide. And if they don't provide, I will make sure that I will get him out the next time. I think that is the only language the politician would understand. And I understand if you hear the president talk, he made some promises and Ghanaians are waiting to hold him to it. And Ghanaians will punish the MPP so sternly if they misbehave on this record of corruption. So if they want to play with it, they should go ahead and Ghanaians will show it. But the truth is that the politician is, and of course all of us, would almost always pursue self-interest. And one of them is to, let's try and get as much resources as we can from the system so that during election we can split that.
So there are issues with election funding.
Absolutely. And in fact, a lot of these things we see are actually as a result of election funding. Because people get in there and they become entrepreneurs. They don't provide you the money, it's because they love you. They provide you the money because they want you to get in there and begin to have power to distribute the spoils of victory. And when you get in there, they will ask for their pound of flesh. It
sounds like a sowing and a reaping time.
Absolutely.
Prof, do you think allegation and investigation, sometimes you say he that alleges must come with some evidence. Well, do you think if we empower Ghanaians to put out the issues and the issues are investigated, it will help? Because then you don't want state institutions to be running after a series of allegations as well.
There is a study that shows that in places where they promote whistleblowing, it in itself is able to reduce corruption more than 40% than what active state agencies would actually be able to do.
So we should encourage
We should encourage it.
Prof, Dr. Drosa, you talked about MPP indicating in their manifesto that they will review the sanction from a misdemeanor to a first-degree felony. Give us some education, and would that help to deal with the issues?
Definitely it will help, because if it is a misdemeanor, I mean, the maximum you can go is 25 years. But then if it's a felony, they can even sentence you to death. So
but even 25 years for a politician in jail is a lot of.
Well, it is a lot, but then if it is a felony, then it means you've lifted the bar. So I think if they are able to do that, it will really put some fear in the people. And let me also add to what Prof was saying. The issue of whistleblowing. We have a Whistleblowers Act, which was passed as far back as 2006, Act 720. What has prevented us from operationalizing it? Even organizing sensitization to let people know what they need to do to blow their whistle. What I see the MPP said is going to do is to establish a website, an interactive website for public reporting of public practices in accordance with Whistleblowers Act. That is good. But the question I'm asking today is that what has prevented us as a nation from sensitizing people on their rights and their obligations, what they need to do, how to even blow the whistle, and even how to protect a whistleblower under the Whistleblowers Act. I'm very positive that if we had spent some energies, some resources on educating people under Whistleblowers Act, most of these people would have blown their whistle long ago. And even when they blow their whistle, what's going to happen to them?
Protection.
The social protection comes back again. So I think in this country, if we want to uproot corruption from the base, we should have a social protection system that protects people who would come up to report corrupt practices. Else, you endanger the life of the person. Look at our own brother Martin Amidu, who fought for Ghana for money to be recovered. Who has thought about him again? Who has reimbursed him the amount of money he spent? So it doesn't encourage people to fight and die for the Republic of Ghana. And if we're able to do that, I think it will help us.
Doug, what do you think? One allegation, one investigation. What do you think about that statement?
Quite interesting. For me, when it comes to this procurement and its allegations, at times, some are basically about perception and our appreciation of what procurement is. Somebody thinks, I have experienced a situation where an evaluation was conducted. A contract has not been awarded, and somehow somebody sneaks out and speaks to one player to say, "Oh, you are in the lead. We have given to you."
Breach of confidentiality.
When the evaluation itself had not been completed, you're talking about the technical capability. Yeah, it's done it, but now you also want to look at the financials and everything. And even at that stage, you've still not awarded, because it can be cancelled, terminated at that stage without even awarding. Now, you need to finish off all these things, and then you try to conclude. But before these things go out, if somebody hears it, I have been a victim myself in some previous regimes where I was referred to a minister and he wrote to my boss that I should explain why a company was not awarded. And then we have to take time to give the narrative. It went and the minister did not come back again, I think about over a decade ago. And those are the kind of things that you find happening in some of the places. But having said that, I think that procurement should have been one of the easy systems that we can manage and monitor right from beginning till the end. But what we find as a gap is we have no trained procurement auditors. I'm talking about procurement auditors. And a procurement auditor, with due respect to my financial auditors.
Yes, I was going to ask, with the financial auditor is looking at the system, what the law says, what the application is, and what the end is. So wouldn't they be able to do it? They've been doing it for years.
Oh, the procurement auditor is quite different, yeah, because then he needs to look at even the specification writing and everything, how it was done. If you look at the Smith case, straight away, for me, I look at the Smith case and the initial questions I asked and not getting answers, I knew, there was a bit of a problem, because the processes that had to be followed, if it does not work, then it needs to be halted somewhere. If you follow World Bank's loans to us, the reason why it is almost close to protected is that they create gatekeepers along the process, and they make sure that after every event, you need to refer to them and then they will have to assess what you've gone through. If they disagree, they throw it back at you, come and defend it. But with our process, you go through without even a procurement plan. But you go through it and you get these things. And at the end of the day, when somebody blows, after a contract had been awarded, and then we start creating all the, the interesting stuff behind it, which now makes it a bit difficult to try to change. If you have awarded a contract, if you have awarded a contract and it's been accepted, now you go back and you say terminate this contract. Then now we're entering into another area, and it creates more difficulties for us. I think that procurement should be cured upfront and not ex post when everything has already been done. We need to build in systems to make sure that procurement processes are corrected as we go along. And in this country, we stop buying when they are not even planned. If they are not in the annual procurement plan,
then it shouldn't be bought.
Because that's financial indiscipline.
It shouldn't be bought.
Because the procurement plan first will have to be defended. Then
resources
it goes,
are allocated.
So if resources are allocated, that is when funds can be committed for those that had already been approved.
So there's a problem with the planning. Huge problem.
Huge problem.
Doug, what role are we all playing? Let's start with the politicians. What role are we all playing to this situation that we find ourselves? Prof says it's a chaotic situation.
I think we are all to be blamed. In fact, because it doesn't take one individual to engage in corrupt activities. Procurement fraud is committed along a systemic chain. The politician has a role to play to quality assure the process and make sure that there is strict compliance with the existing legislative framework.
Looking at change, what should the politicians do?
Change in terms of...
To start changing, reversing this trend.
Yeah,
proper planning,
to reverse this trend. We call something
five
five business models or 5 PFM areas. First, they should start with their strategic planning. In their strategic planning, there should be some provision in there that there will be strict adherence to all policies and practices underlying financial management. 2, after the strategic planning, they convert the plan into a budget. The budget must be properly prepared with some level of discipline in it. Then after that, you need a procurement plan. That procurement plan and then the contracting is by way of spending the budget. And anything that is not budgeted for should not be spent, because you don't procure when you've not budgeted for it. So they should start from that angle. And then after that, you manage the procurement process in such a way that you respect the annual procurement plan that has been approved by the board. And in the procurement plan, there are thresholds. And even in the procurement plan, they set margins within which they will not cross. They even indicate the procurement method. But what we see happening is that at times, they set aside the procurement plan. Things that have not been budgeted for are rather budgeted for, are rather paid, are purchased. Now, if you do that, what it then means is that because it was not in the procurement plan, you do not even know the procurement method that the law allows you to use. So then they will go for sole sourcing. And they know that they will have a way of influencing at the other side to get clearance from the institution for them to do sole sourcing. You know, so if they are able to go through those things, and then also the next stage is accounting and reporting. Periodic, frequent accounting and reporting after procurement and contracting is very important. That's what the politician must ensure that is done. Then after accounting and reporting, you institutionalize internal audit first. Then after that, you do external audit to periodically establish the errors and irregularities in the system before it gets out of hand. If we fail along any of these 5 models, then we are getting it wrong. And I see that the indiscipline is coming from us failing from connecting the procurement plan with the budget.
Prof, the oversights from Parliament, because the executive, we know they are the ones who are in charge of all these decisions. So what should Parliament do?
I beg you.
In their oversight?
You want to look for trouble for me?
Look, I'm not looking for trouble. I'm looking for answers.
Well, I think that there are 3 key things we need to look at. Our constitution gives power to 3 broad institutions. The presidency has a very key role to play. Ours is an executive president, so we are looking to see the president exert himself if he has to be able to protect the resources that he has to use to prosecute his development agenda. Parliament has to continue to do. Unfortunately, I think in the past we haven't had a lot of useful role from Parliament. The Public Accounts Committee, one thing they have done well, I think I should commend, is the public telecast of the hearings, and I think that in itself has been a significant deterrent to people. That's very, very important.
But they should decentralize.
They should.
When sit in a crime, sitting.
Yeah, they should, and we should keep playing them. We should keep playing them. Play them. In fact, I met somebody who went there and came and said it's not palatable at all to sit on that seat. So I think it's very good. The other thing is for us to insist on integrity systems, and one of those will be that we should have very strong investigative systems. Elsewhere, if you bought an iPad and we know your salary or your condition can't guarantee, cannot give you an iPad, or you can't show that you got a gift.
iPad is difficult to show. What about car?
That's what I'm saying. So if you buy a car, even financial institutions have responsibility to report any significant changes in people's accounts when they know that there hasn't been a history of that kind of change. And they have responsibility to report. So we need to get investigative agencies that are following people. If somebody lives your next door and the next time he's built a mansion and it is not working, you should be able to report him. And
the law makes provision for officials, government officials, to declare their assets.
Yeah, but that's another hoax. I'm sorry, but I think that thing is problematic. I know the challenge of saying, well, if we publish, yes, then people get to know and all of that. But otherwise, it should be possible for the investigative agencies to be able to look at these things and chase people. Otherwise, there's no use as it is. There's no use.
But Prof, why are you a public officer? If you don't want your properties to be put in
absolutely
public, don't go into
important.
public
Exactly.
office. Once you're a public officer, your everything must be in public. You have put yourself
absolutely
out for that.
Absolutely.
So
the other thing I think we need to do
is
is to a lot of education, right? We need to keep talking about this. We need to educate people. Let's tell people that they should resist and all of that. And the one thing we are not doing as a country, and which we should do, is to train people on what is wrong. We tell people in public service, don't be corrupt. But oftentimes, even the ramification of corruption is difficult. And many of us accuse other people for being corrupt because they have taken money. But there are others also who are taking property, who are taking time, who are giving,
who are giving.
Yes, we are.
You're looking for a passport, and the first thing you want to do for is someone who will help you.
Exactly. So I think we need to talk about this in a holistic way that allow people to understand. Let public servants elsewhere. You need to take training almost every year on what is ethical and what is not ethical, what you can do, what sanctions you can go through if you were to do X or Z and all of that. And I think if we do that, we would perhaps do it. I think Shiraj should be doing a lot more. Shiraj is not, its educational role is not coming forth as well. I can't see them talking to people about corruption, making noise about issues of corruption. What is wrong, what is right within the public space, what should people do, what shouldn't they do. Shiraj should be doing more, I think.
Doc,
yeah,
the human resource, the procurement people, what should we do as a country moving forward so that we can have the right professionals to do the right things? In a few minutes, we have just about a minute to go.
Thank you very much. I think that currently the Ghana Institute of Procurement and Supply is working in collaboration with the Chartered Institute of Procurement and Supply Chain Management to try and get an LI passed on procurement in the country so that professional procurement practitioners will be licensed. So then, if anything happens, then they know how to sanction. And then whoever qualifies, there will be entry requirements and criteria for you to even think about practicing procurement. And I think it's one of the big things that can happen to the profession, just as Professor Sai said.
So if this plan is in place, when should we be seeing fruits of those discussions?
I know currently they're working on, I've been out for some time, but I've been speaking to colleagues, and I know that this is something we're working on, and I think in about a month and 2 time, you should see a few things going, trying to push it through Parliament to see if something could come out. But you see, one of the difficult things we also have with procurement is the artificial speed effect. You see, we sit and we can just create emergency out of nothing. And then when it happens, then we now want to use any other method at all to buy. I have said that NADMO should not even buy under emergency. There is nothing emergency about NADMO. Nadmo, what is your job? What do you do?
We know the rains will come.
Exactly. So why do you wait and say you want to buy under emergency? It doesn't exist. But look throughout the country. Most of the procurements we're doing, because they are unplanned,
but
we'll just rush.
Sometimes you don't know how much havoc will be caused by the rain, and you don't know where and the things you will need.
Fantastic.
Shouldn't that give room for some emergency procurement?
So establishing a contract does not necessarily need you receiving and keeping the items in your warehouse. No, you need to establish all your contracts, and you know where you pull whatever from. You know the lead time you give to pull out these requirements on the basis of the agreed contracts. And these are very simple things that should be done.
So proper planning should resolve most of our issues.
That is what we don't have now.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kodriosai and Professor Justice Baole, Dr. Fred Afuti-Waters. And thank you, my viewers, for making time every Sunday afternoon to join us. Thanks to the production team. You've heard from my guests. We all have a contribution. If we want to have a good accountability and protect the public purse, we all have a contribution. Let's contribute our quota. And I keep saying Ghana will be the one to win. My name is Deborah Kwabla Godwin. Same time next week, we will be here and we'll bring you another discussion. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye.